Hi everybody, John Pederesi again here from Giovanni Pitar, and today we're going to discuss, we learned how to make a bezel cup, right? We learned the whole procedure of making a bezel cup. Now we're going to learn, and we put it on a ring, and we showed you how to do that. We're going to show you some different things, what to do with a bezel cup. All right, here I've got a Brazilian agate. Real nice translucent stone, and I want to get the maximum amount of color out of that, the maximum amount of pop. So in order to do that, I've made the bezel, and we know how to do that. The bezel wire just soldered together. Fits snugly around the stone, the Brazilian agate. And to get the maximum amount of light to pass through it, I cut a piece of plate that is going to be the bottom of the bezel cup, and that's going to, if you can see that, and that's going to make the maximum amount of light pass through that. If it was closed, you'd get a dark substance, and you could also leave it closed and put different colored material in there. You put a piece of copper in there that would make it pop. But for this video, we're just gonna leave it open and get the maximum amount of light. And also, we're gonna put a border around it. I cut some bead wire, and that's gonna go around the bezel cup. And that'll be a real nice, I use the word embellishment too much. I got to find a new word. A real nice addition to the piece. So let's talk about the wire that I used to go around there. Today, I didn't solder it shut. I'm going to show you how to solder it shut. But that's the ball wire, and that's ball wire. Sold by the foot, Rio Grande. You have a great selection over there at Rio Grande. Here's some twist wire. It's a real fine, tight twist, so it's hard to see, but you can see how when it moves, it has kind of a faceted effect to it, and shines in different area and doesn't shine in the others. And here's a real nice one that I use. It's a little too big for this piece, but it's a twist. It's a braided twist. It's a twist, a combination of smooth wire and twisted wire. And once that's made to fit snugly around a ring bezel or a earring bezel or bracelet bezel or pendant bezel, whatever you're going to do. These are just ways to accent and highlight your pieces. So let's go over here to the soldering station. Okay, there we go. Let me get my goggles on. And this border of bead wire has been already cut to fit, and it's going to be a real snug fit. So, and you get that back together. You're going to spring the wire. See, you can hardly see the seam in there. Gonna not pickle it, but we're gonna, what the heck is this stuff? Flux, thank you. A lot of information here, even for me. Put a little flux on there. There's already a tiny, tiny piece, about a 64th or more or less of an inch of solder there. We don't want it, because for too much solder, you're gonna see the ball of solder bigger than the bead itself. So nice little flame, and heat it up. Now, I know you're not seeing it flow, but watch what happens when the solder flows. It's gonna it's going to fall flat to the soldering surface. As I said, it didn't do it, but it flowed. So right now that's closed. Let's quench it. That's closed, and that ain't going nowhere. So now we have our border. Stone out. We're going to solder the bezel to the pre-sawed bezel plate. We're going to get some flux the plate, flux the inside of the bezel. Put our net on there, our mesh. And 4 pieces of solder should be sufficient. Get that on top of the, put the bezel on top of the plate, and show you one, and I have to take it away from there. Put the solder inside the bezel cup, and I'm going to use 4 pieces, 1 for each side, left, right, top, and bottom, and that should be plenty. Okay. And I'm also going to have to leave, you see I cut this plate a little bigger because we're going to put something else around it. So if you notice, there's room around the bezel cup to put something else there. So you got to, figure that out beforehand. You seen that? There we go. All right, just like soldering the other bezel cup. Dry up the flux first so the solder doesn't bounce around. When it gets nice and powdery, flux is all dried up, and it won't bubble in. It's bubbling a little bit more. Just gotta. Okay, there it goes. It's all dried now. Heat from the bottom. And watching your metal, making sure that it doesn't melt. Okay. I made a mistake here, and I'm using hard solder again, and I got to be real careful that the bezel doesn't melt. It's starting to, and well, here goes the flow. So, okay, everything's good. Remember, I said. When making other solders, difficult solders, after your initial solder, you want to go down in temperature. So I should have been using medium solder, but it worked out. Everything is soldered in place. Let me quench it and give you a better look. Okay, everything's soldered in place. Room left for the bead wire to go around it. Now, if you don't get a really tight fit on your wire going around the bezel, it's going to leave spaces that don't look good. This is just for, especially if you antique it. So this is going to be a tight fit, and you're just going to have to work the wire around there. Until it fits. I know eventually this will fit, and the things that you could do is bend the bezel in a little bit at the top, and that usually gives it a little more room. We're almost there. Come on. Gotta bend that in a little bit, and I have to use the pliers. Oh, baby. That's going to be a really tight fit. Okay, there it goes. Now, once you got it to fit, you want to push that bezel wire back out, otherwise the stones aren't going to fit in there. So, nice round metal tool, push it back out. Now, there you go. There's the, where are you? There's the beaded wire surrounding the bezel. And we've got, now all we have to do is, you see that? I didn't push it all the way down because I'm going to flux it now. And I want to get some flux underneath. And ideally, this should be pickled before I'm even doing this, but I'm talking, I forgot a step, but it'll work. Flux it all the way around underneath and on the top. A lot of flux ain't gonna hurt it. With small pliers, push it down all the way around. Make sure it's nice and flush. Sometimes it's bent and you need to bend it back down, so I'm using 2 pliers here in order to make sure that it's flush. And there is absolutely no space in between that plate and the beaded wire. So I'm going to flux it again. And I'm not going to make the same mistake. We're going to go to easy solder. Cut about 6 pieces of easy solder. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And place your solder in the corners, the 4 corners, close to the top so it flows together at the top and the bottom and on the sides. There's not much room on the sides. I should have cut this plate a little bigger, but it'll work. We'll get that solder to flow, and it'll flow all the way around the bezel and the newly soldered bead wire. Now, if you can see that, I've got all the way around 6 pieces of medium solder, easy solder, because we don't want to melt, melt is a good word, or we don't want the hard solder to flow, because the initial solders, if they flow, they're going to separate, and probably you're going to throw the piece away and start all over again. So dry your flux up. There's a lot of flux on here, so these are probably going to move. So keep an eye on it. And remember, we soldered the bezel wire to the plate. Now we're soldering the beaded accent to the plate around the bezel, and once that's all soldered together, that's going to be a nice looking ring, especially with the transparent Brazilian agate. So this is looking good now. It's all dried up and getting ready to flow. Keep moving around and around and around. Keep moving around, not staying in one spot too long. If you do that, you gotta melt it. It's starting to get hot now, so just keep moving, and it's starting to flow. What I do, I before I put it in, quench it, I'd look around, make sure it's all soldered to the plate, and that's looking good. There's a little spot over here. Okay, that flowed. Now, there you go. All soldered and ready to go. Let's quench it. And usually I would pickle it first and then trim it, but so we don't have to shut the camera off and continue the video. We will proceed with the trimming over here. So, just like the other bezel cup, with your bench shears or your metal shears, cut real close around the border. Keep going around and around. There's your scrap, save your scrap. Just want to tell you, with the scrap, about a year's worth of scrap, I just sent into Rio Grande and I got a $350 credit to buy more material, and worked out really good. You know, I got a whole bunch of material for just the scraps that I didn't use. Hey, pretty close now. You can see it's all the way pretty close. Where are you? There you go. Now we're going to file it. Okay. Just going around on an angle that's not cutting the wire, but bringing the remaining plate close to the wire. So it looks like it's all one piece, and this will exactly be like one piece once it's all filed correctly and soldered correctly. So there's how many steps? Cutting the plate is one step. Measuring it to make sure you have enough to put the wire around it, the beaded wire or whatever you use, leaving enough room for that. Then making your bezel wire, then soldering that bezel wire to the bezel plate, and then once that's all complete, getting a tight fit on your accent or embellishment, as I like to call them, and that's it. You know, I'm gonna go throw it in the pickle and let it pickle for a while, and then we'll come back with another segment on putting a ring shank on there and completing it. All right, so let's go back to Giovanni here. All right, so that's one of the things you could do. I mean, just from making a simple bezel cup, you could do so many things. Just use your imagination, you know, your intuitiveness on what to do, and it'll come to you. You know, if you have to copy somebody at first, that's fine. You know, that's what I did. I copied Lexi Thompson. You know, made it really well known in the jewelry industry. I copied a lot of her style because I liked the style, and then from there I went on to making my own designs and trying to become more and more creative as I go along. And that's the idea of these videos, is to help people be more creative and come back and share techniques and their work, you know, so, you know, the mind is working in that direction of knowing the like-minded things that we do together. So I want to thank you again, and I'll come back with another video on soldering a ring shank to this and putting a stone in it. And thanks again for watching. Giovanni Pitar, John Pederesi here, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.